Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Thank you very much for joining me. Our patient is the Keurig K-Cups Classic. So this is the old one, right? This is the one that I personally prefer. It only has 3 buttons plus on button plus the auto off, right? So all you do is put your K-Cup, you press whichever size you want, one of the 3 buttons, and it brews. So no displays, no electronics, no Wi-Fi access, no nothing. That's how I like my coffee machine. I mean, if you're into, brewing with Wi-Fi and stuff like that, sure. They might also be a little more reliable because you have a little more access. It can tell you a lot more feedback when you have the display. But for the most part, these are really good, really reliable. But sometimes they stop working. This one stopped working in a very common way. They stop working. So what happens is when you start brewing, the tank starts boiling. You can hear the water boiling in the tank. Then it starts pumping. So the pump engages and it sucks the water from the tank, but it returns it through this valve, this escape valve over here. So the water is just circulating in the tank. So it never starts brewing. It just shuts off after a while. Now, usually when that happens, it's typically a blockage. It's if you don't descale those on a regular basis, they will just get clogged, especially if you have hard water. I recommend using the filtered water, right? So it's not as hard. It doesn't have as much impurities that affect when you boil the water, right? It behaves much better when you use the filtered water rather than just tap water. But you can use tap water just once in a while. Put some citric acid, or you can get the cleaner, but they're overpriced. It's basically just mixture of distilled water and citric acid. That's all it is. And run few cycles, the full tank of, or even couple tanks, depending how you want to do it. Just make sure that after cleaning, you pump at least 2 tanks just to clean the system from citric acid. I mean, it's food grade, it's not poisonous or anything, but the coffee is gonna taste not that great. So, in our case, we have a blockage somewhere. So we do know that the pump is working, pump is primed, and it is capable of pushing water, but that water can't get into the tank. So from the tank, it can go through the needle and through the K-cup and brew the coffee. So let's see what we can do. First thing that is very common on these is the needle is gonna get clogged. So on this one, you can remove this little seal from the needle, inspect the needle. There's always going to be a little bit of coffee, but that's the most common issue, especially when you use not K-cups, but instead you use those reusable cups. There's going to be a lot of coffee that will get into that, because K-cups, in addition, have a better, they're just made, the amount of coffee in the K-cup is going to be proper for this, right? But if you make it yourself, just as we like to do, you put a little more and the coffee gets in the needle. So this is very common, but is this our problem here? Hard to say. The other problem can be a valve. There is a valve. If it's stuck open or stuck closed, that's what's going to happen as well. But usually from my instinct is telling me that it's not the electrical issue. It's telling me that this is just blockage. Alright, we got the majority of the machine disassembled. It's very simple, just 1 screw, 1 clip, and you're done. I'm kidding, of course, it's Keurig. There's 10 kinds of screws, they're all hidden, and the order of unscrewing those screws is just ridiculous. But actually this old one is not as bad, because those newer ones, it kind of depends. You have quicker access to the board, but there's tons of clips. and it's very hard to disassemble it without leaving any marks, or at least that's what I would struggle with. But once you know where exactly to pull which way, it's a little easier on those newer ones. On this one, the older ones, it's primarily just screws. There's barely any clips. So, pick your poison. So now let's confirm that this is actually a blockage issue and not the electrical issue. Because if it is electrical issue, that's going to be a lot harder, because I don't even know how to get to the board. Alright, so I got a little tap water. You just need just enough to lift the magnet over here, right? This is what I like in these. The actual sensor, the water sensor, is in the tank. So you can always tell if it gets stuck. I've seen that happen before. When you leave a little bit of water in for a long time and just put it in the storage, and after a year or two you put the water in, but the magnet is not going up. It's very simple to repair. Let's put the tank in. Let's plug it in. Just in case, let's put some container over here in case it starts leaking. So here we see the tank over there, right? Oh, it's transparent. I didn't even know it was transparent. I guess only the top is transparent, the bottom is not. And we have our escape route. This is where all the water is going to, right? And back in the tank, right? Which means we are pumping. I think the inlet is at the bottom, or this is the inlet. I'm not sure. We're gonna see it right now once we start pumping. So instead of going there, all the water returns here. So let's see. So let's turn it on. Turns on. The heater is on. Let's see if it's gonna start boiling. It is boiling. There's a little bit of water already escaping here. Because the water is boiling. I see some bubbles going up here. Okay, and it's boiled. So the switch is over here. You could just short the switch to just fool it, or you can just close it, and that's what's going to close the switch over here. There. Now it's ready, so it's blinking now. So let's get the little one. A little coffee. That was unexpected. Yeah, I think it tried to push through here because I have a pressure over here, right? There's no bubbles. See that? No bubbles. So there's pressure here, which means we are clogged at the needle. That's what I conclude at least, but we'll see in a second. Yeah, there's definitely pressure here. There's not supposed to be. Well, there is supposed to be pressure here, but not like this. So now it behaved differently than it behaved before, probably because I used the little cup. That's fine. So let's just use the homemade technique of a paper clip, and let's see if we can clean it with a paper clip. Because most likely there's just coffee stuck in the needle. Now if I remove it, definitely in this case, because we have this little O-ring over here, right? So you pull the O-ring, it's a basically plastic ring, and you can remove this silicone tube of this assembly and then just remove the whole needle assembly. But the problem with that is that there is hot water at some pressure stuck over here. So when you remove it, you're going to splash hot water everywhere and you're going to burn yourself. So be mindful of that. So let's see if we can do it without burning ourselves, because it is hot. Wait for it. Probably use eyewear, eye protection. There. Okay. Perfect. So now we can remove these two screws and this whole assembly over here should release. Okay, I can't really see anything, but let's blow through it. Yeah, it's super clogged. Yeah. So this is our this is our problem. Now we can quickly confirm by turning it on again if it's gonna turn on. We'll see. It's boiling. It boiled. And do the small one. There you go. It's working perfectly fine. So this wasn't even a descaling issue. It's unable to build pressure. That's why it's pushing a little bit too much. It's unable to build pressure now. Okay, so everything works perfectly fine. Our only problem is just this clogged needle. Okay, let's get rid of all of this off the desk. It's gonna be fun reassembling it. I probably could have just removed these two screws to remove the handle, these screws at the bottom over there to remove the cover, this one, then just remove these two screws to remove the needle, unhook this, and that would have been easier. But instead I removed a whole bunch of other screws because I expected that perhaps I will have to go into the valve and check the switches over there. But luckily I don't have to, but I made a little bit more work for myself than I could have. Okay, one screw here, and where did the other go? I thought it fell somewhere here. Okay, now let's see what we can do over here. There's your problem. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of gunk in there. So this is a damage from those reusable cups. That's what happens, unfortunately. But, well, what are you gonna do? Let's see. There. So that's all that coffee that gets in there from the reusable cup. And it's gonna clog up. No way around it. Look at all that nastiness. That's why using original K-cups prolongs the lifetime of the device, because there's really nothing you can do against this other than from time to time just clean it like this. Even the scaling is not gonna help with this. Ugh. Ugh. Nastiness. I mean, it's just coffee. It's not nasty. As long as it's not molded or anything. There. And the Keurig is repaired. So it was simple as that. I was kinda overthinking it. This should have been obvious to me because I use this machine. I know how it's being used, how it's being utilized. Now, if you get the customer machine and you don't know how it was utilized, how it was being used, then you should go through the whole procedure. But with this, I should have known, and I can't really see that over here. But let me see. Maybe you can see it like this. See, it's see-through now. That's what it's supposed to look like. You see 3 distinct holes in there. All right, let's put it back together and give it a test and have some coffee. Then we can get to actual work, because this is not even actual work. I just need coffee. All right, the needle is reinstalled. I didn't put the screws on it yet because first you need to put this guy on, then put the handle. But you can just put the handle as long as you hold it like this here. It's perfectly functional. Maybe not perfectly functional, but it is functional. So, the scaling time. You can buy those liquids from Keurig. But those liquids, all they're gonna have is citric acid, perhaps some white vinegar, a little touch, and a high price sticker. That's pretty much the only difference between homemade solution and the Keurig solution. So, what I do is literally, 2 pinches of citric acid in the water. You don't want to go overboard. Now, if you add vinegar, that's for like really harsh scaling. If you suspect that it's been in the garage for 10 years and there was some water in it, or it's never been cleaned before, or something like that, then you can try with vinegar, because that's going to start activating if you add vinegar. So I'm not going to be adding vinegar because we don't need it here. And the procedure is pretty simple. Turn it on, let it heat up. Forgot to mention to mix the solution, because especially in cold water, all that citric acid is going to sit at the bottom. But it's not that important. The most important part is not to leave any in the machine. And the trick here is pretty simple, because there's plenty of water, probably a cup like this much water in the tank, the internal tank, the boiler. So even though the tank is empty, then after cleaning, run 2 more tanks just to clean the insides. And that's it. Simple as that. Okay, open, close, and let's do the big one. All right, the tank has filled, and we're brewing, and we're working. I finally have coffee in the morning, or will have after this. Very common and very simple issue, you know, and oftentimes people discard those machines because of simple issues like that. Because what do you suspect? You suspect something inside got ruined, right? Something stopped working, electrical issues. Yeah, it could be, sure, but it's very rarely that. Alrighty, I ran it through many cycles to empty 2 tanks. So now let's use actual filtered water. There, it's heating up. Now I'm gonna do one last drain because there's still tap water in the tank. So I'm gonna do one last just empty run. And now it's ready. So now let's actually brew some coffee and see what the difference is. Okay, so what happened? Now we need to open it again. It looks like there's one last thing wrong with it. See that? See what happened here? But since some of the coffee backed up over here, so now we have to take it off. That's why we test. That's why we test before we call it done. All right, second try. So this time I did put screws on the sides. The problem there was that I didn't close it, so when you don't have screws on the side over here, there's not enough force to actually push the K-cup, and it didn't puncture. So all the water went into the cup, and it just backed up to the system. Not the best, but now we should hear the distinct click. There. Now I know it actually punctured. So, well, that was the fault of an operator. I just wanted to just kind of cut corner and test it before reassembling at least this part. Now, again, let's get some coffee. I like the sound. That means the pressure in the K-cup built up. And I like the smell. This is cheap coffee, but gets the job done. Alright. Don't leave the K-cups in the machine, because that's one of the reasons it probably clogged the needle because of that. It smells good. It's still backed up a little bit. It spit back a little bit of coffee, but the puncture is correct, right? It's a good puncture. Well, these are really cheap Walmart K-cups, so I don't know, they might not work as well, but it's kind of concerning that it's backing up, because that's going to impact the taste of the coffee if if you constantly have some coffee left over here, unless this coffee was actually left from the previous cycle. That's probably what it was, and now it just transferred into this K-cup because I didn't clean it here. Yeah, that's probably what happened. And now the most important part of this, taste test. You know what? Right after the cleaning, when you do all those cycles with the citric acid and do the rinsing and everything and clean all of this from old coffee and everything, the taste is amazing. Because you, over time, you just kind of get used to coffee being a little more bitter, a little more less flavorful, you know, tasting a little less clean, and you just kind of get used to that because, you know, you don't have time to clean your coffee machine every month or so. But that first coffee after cleaning is amazing. Well, looks like we are done here. That was the only issue. Pretty much the entire ordeal over here was just that one clogged needle over here. But again, it's good to run the scaling process or descaling from time to time. The machine will tell you over here, descale. This LED will light up, but this LED lights up only when, in this case, right, when there is a blockage. It just takes, I believe it just measures the time it takes to fill the tank and then measures the time it takes to get for the water to get from the tank to the dish. And if it's longer, that means there's a little blockage because it takes longer to pump the water, and that's when the descale will light up. But I wouldn't rely on that. You have to know when to clean your machine. The machine is, especially this one, is not going to tell you that it needs to be cleaned. And when it does tell you that it needs to be cleaned, it's already too late. It's already in a pain in the butt to actually clean it. So take care of your machine and it will take care of you. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you found this useful, and I shall see you guys in the next one.